Hello, my friends. Once again, Pokrovsk, and the good news that there are no news coming from those two settlements, Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. Here we are looking for the new update of the deep state military map. I also checked out other analytics. They all come about this particular pocket. However, Russians, they say that Ukraine deployed some of the extra forces, including GUR forces. Once again, I wonder how those were delivered. With the help of the helicopter? Probably not. We haven't seen the new helicopter landing operations, but Ukraine is pushing Russians in Pokrovsk itself and also in Krasny Liman. At the same time, Russia is pushing Ukraine in Pokrovsk. So everything is mixed out there, the presence of the Russian army, the presence of Ukrainian troops, but still Russia is unable to advance from Krasny Liman to lock this area completely and to trap Ukrainian army. For now, it's unachievable goal for them, but they concentrate enough drone fire to cause disturbances for Ukrainian armed forces. So for now, it's kind of the big risk for Ukrainian army to attempt to withdraw the forces because all of them will be under the drone fire. It's imminent. For this reason, I think Ukraine is more concentrated to expand this area and to try to find some of the locations of the Russian drone operators. Also, Ukraine recently hit several of the Russian artillery systems, which are also focusing on this corridor, or you may call it a bottleneck. Well, the corridor itself could be wide like this one if we take the red area, or gray zone, it's like this, way narrower. But the main thing that it is still out there, and I see the attempts of the Ukrainian army to provide good way out for our forces from Mirnograd and Pokrovsk. That's the most important thing about this general operation of, let's say, defense of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, but finally Russians will occupy those two settlements. I think maximum couple of weeks, as Donald Trump likes to say. Well, if you go a little to the north, there is a real encirclement of the Russian armed forces. Yeah, not many of the troops are deployed in this forest line, but they try to leave and exit this area, even towards Shahava. They're in desperate, but probably they'll have to surrender, or they will be flatlined. Here's the Ukrainian territorial gain in this sector, and it's great, guys, that we see the Ukrainian advancement, not the Russian one. Every day that I update the map, I'm hoping that Ukraine gets more ground and Russia loses it, but in most of the variants, of course, Russians take more territories, little by little, but they do it. But for the last 24 hours, they had no any sort of the propulsion in this pocket, which is great. You see, Ukraine is very active with armed forces. You may click on all of those marks and check out the real videos coming from the front lines. Well, this one was posted, I think, 3 days ago. Then Ukrainians advanced to Pokrovsk, central part of it, from the Skela 125th Brigade, and they put Ukrainian flag. Awesome. Plus, as I say to you, Ukraine hit some sort of the artillery system in this area. Russia is using artillery to cut supplies for Ukraine. Well, it was geolocated. Here's the video itself. Yeah, this is the Grad system that was traced by Ukrainian drone and hit kaboomed. But let's go to another direction. For example, in Vovchansk, there Ukraine lost the artillery system, which was used to hit Russian army advancement in Vovchansk. Vovchansk was without any actions for maybe a couple of years, but for the last week, Russian Z army managed to occupy the part of the forest, and they also went into the settlement itself. They even put their flag there. As you see, they help also with their aviation gliding bombs, some of them maybe even Iskander missiles. With this attack, Vovchansk is being divided in two of the parts. We have also the confirmation from the Maiko 73. It was his interactive map, and you may check out the link to find out his social media where he posts all of that, and also there is the link for his map in his Twitter. So we see that Ukraine doesn't have enough resources to compensate those Russian strikes elsewhere. Well, unlike in Pokrovsk, in Vovchansk, it's just a minor attack for now at least, and Russia doesn't use big forces for this one. Where Russia moves quite fast is in Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia and Donetsk. So here is the move every day, expansion of the gray zone. They also very close to Nova and Novospenivske, the recent update over here. So Pokrovsk direction is kind of concerning. The battle for the settlement will start the next year at the very beginning, as well as the battle for Konstantinivka. Now Russia tries to reach the settlement, attacking from the south from Toretsk. Guys, I'm very surprised that despite all of those issues in Ukrainian army, our defenders are capable to keep Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. They're not yet being trapped. Don't believe the Russian propaganda, at least by the time I'm recording this video and you see it. Our guys still have the way out and the way in. Yeah, it's not the perfect way. That's why Ukraine is working to expand it and to make it more safer for Ukrainian army to leave the area. But unfortunately, it's the only way out. And here in this video, I want to tell about one of those most important issues in Ukrainian army. As the commander of one of the drone units, Igor Lutsenko, wrote, here is his text in Ukrainian, here's some sort of the explanation, but the figure is just astonishing. The last month, October, 21,602 soldiers of Ukrainian army left positions or military branches, and this is the official figure, so it means that the prosecution office, here's the number of the prosecution cases opened against particular individuals. And guys, it's nothing wrong with those guys, it's the full-scale war, and it is understandable why those guys are leaving the positions. This information is spread around now. We have all those graphs showing the cases of the SZC, it's called. I'm gonna lower my image like that. So this year it's the record high. Each month 15, 14, 15, 17, and now 21,000. Yeah, it was the last month. It's the record high number for those people who are leaving military just like that without any order because they don't want to fight. And our volunteer Sternenko, who is the biggest drone volunteer in Ukraine, he pointed out this situation. So a critical problem in the armed forces of Ukraine, record number of SZC. So it's the voluntarily leave, and also there are some of the deserters in October and the last year. This year. I think it's incorrect translation, it's this year, it's the record one. Well, Sternenko also says that it is happening not because people are bad, but because the system in Ukraine with all of this mobilization and the army system itself, it is not reformed, it is not working properly. There are multiple of the commanders who neglect the lives or even humane behavior towards soldiers, towards the younger officers. They send sometimes people in Russian-style attacks, meat waves, and sometimes they receive those kind of the orders from above. The difference now that before in 2022, 2023, there were many volunteers who joined the Ukrainian army just like that, but now there are not so many volunteers, and Ukraine as the government and the Ukrainian military as an institution, they didn't do anything to motivate Ukrainian people to join with at least anything. Well, Sternenko says it right that the allowance even for Ukrainian soldiers is without the changes for years, and it's quite low even if we compare it to the Russian soldiers' salaries and benefits. And we may say, oh, maybe Ukraine doesn't have enough money. Yes, Ukraine doesn't have enough money, but at the same time there are some of the populist decisions to spend the money for the projects which are not connected to the defense of Ukraine at all. I think that everything of that should be postponed, and the number one priority should be the defense of Ukraine, because nowadays the survivability is the most important thing, and there is still no army reforms. I was actually shocked that Sternenko said that Ukraine forms new brigades by the time the existing brigades, they are not equipped with manpower, with soldiers, with officers. He said that 30% are only equipped. It means that what is happening really? So luckily he has this kind of the voice via his YouTube channel that counts more than 2 million subscribers. I also will use my social media, and many other volunteers that are screaming about reforms. Without it, well, the next day we may wake up and Russians could even knock to Dnipro city, to Zaporizhia, Kharkiv. At least from what I see, everything goes according to that scenario if nothing is done. And if there is a political will from Ukrainian government, those reforms, they're easily conducted. You don't need permission from the United States or from Europe to conduct those reforms. You don't need to wait for tomahawks, for any sort of military support. You just need to use your military and your resources more effectively. But unfortunately, they are not used effectively at all. And for me, yes, it's a pure miracle that Ukraine still can defend itself. And without the drones, without volunteers, volunteer support of Ukrainian army, Russians would have occupied already half of the Ukraine for sure with this government attitude. And with the Soviet-like system in Ukrainian army, small Soviet army cannot win against the big Soviet army, which Russia is. Even with Western weapons, it's not possible. So there were some of the good decisions, like to form some of the corps, but it's not working as it should be. In general, I see that the military command, it rotted down. It should be mainly dismissed, as for me. And many of the officers, many of the volunteers, they do agree with that point of view. As Ternenko says, without those reforms, we will die. That's the outcome he says, and here I agree with him that the system, that kind of, it cannot withstand those Russian attacks and to fight against that prevailing enemy. It was possible because of this Ukrainian spirit in 2022 especially, but it is not forever. You cannot run on the spirit all the time. No, it will gone. People are getting demotivated. They see what is happening, and they are leaving Ukrainian army by thousands. Ukraine officially mobilizes roughly 30,000 soldiers per month and 21,000 leaving. So 9,000 continue to serve more or less, but you may understand that they're also demotivated. It's not like it was in 2022, absolutely, guys. And the sad thing that Ukraine hadn't obtained the proper military support at the proper time, and it was crucially needed to drive the spirit, to serve it with additional extra military help. Remember those dramas with artillery systems, tanks, every time something new, and maybe we shouldn't escalate, maybe we should listen to Putin, what he says. Actually, it is happening also right now. Then Donald Trump calls to Putin saying about should he supply Tomahawks to Ukraine or not. This is crazy, guys, what is happening. And unfortunately, Ukraine itself alone cannot fight forever. It's not possible for any sort of this size of the country. So yes, Ternenko recorded this video. I recommend to check it out. 2.1 million subscribers he has, and you may put English subtitles to understand what he is speaking about. Basically the numbers I'm telling you. So 30,000 people per month Ukraine hires, and 21,000 just left in October alone, which means that people are demotivated because of the system, mainly not because of Russia is the enemy. Yeah, people are afraid to die as well, but the system is not working properly. It should be drained down, completely reformed, something new should be built. Otherwise, as Ternenko also mentions, Ukraine will not survive. Yeah, I understand that I sound pessimistic, but that's the reality. Not many of the pro-Ukrainian YouTubers may tell you about that. Not just YouTubers, but also influencers. Because if you check out this map, where Russia advances now towards Zaporizhia, they want to break through to Zaporizhia and to Dnipro city. It was in November 2024, so 1 year ago, and it is today. Kind of the significant advancement, I may say to you. Zaporizhia, Dnipro already are under the threat. There are not many settlements on the way. Pokrovsk here is the biggest one, and soon there are going to be the fights for it. And also Pavlohrad is the main one before reaching Dnipro. This distance, guys, is very small, and Russians are not far away actually from Pavlograd. I used to fly in Mayskaya, the air club in this area. Yeah, here we go. This is Mayska airfield. I've flown there during the COVID times. So Pavlograd is close, but I also was going to Dnipro for shopping and coming back. And the road takes 1 hour to Dnipro and 1 hour over here somewhere also to Pavlograd. So in 2026, if Russians continue, for example, to propel from Velika Novosilka with the same pace, we may speak about the start of the fight for Pavlograd, and for Pokrovsk will be for sure the next year at the beginning. Maybe Russians may advance to Zaporizhia itself. We'll see. So the pace of the Russian army, especially in this southeastern direction, it is way faster compared to the defended Ukrainian positions, Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Drushkivka, Konstantinovka. And if Russians break through over here, well, the Dnipro is doomed. Absolutely. So that's why it's important for Ukraine to defend this agglomeration of the cities. That's why Zelensky doesn't agree to give those territories to Putin, because first of all, it's a betrayal of the country, violation of the constitution, and obviously giving the most fortified area to Russians. It's a very, very stupid move. So yeah, the situation in general is not that great as it could be. And knowing this trend, if there are no any changes, guys, Russia will occupy way more Ukrainian territories, unfortunately. For now, I'm not saying about the collapse of Ukraine, but the territorial gains will increase if there are no changes. And here's the comment that describes the situation. Everyone wants to be a drone operator. No one wants to get droned. No one wants to be with a shitty Soviet commander who will waste their life for nothing. So you transfer if you can, flee if you can't. Result is the same, a chronic lack of frontline infantry. So the human factor, of course, but here Igor Lutsenko, who is the ex-member of parliament of Ukraine, by the way, and now he's a drone unit commander, well, he also blames the system as it is. And the Ukrainian command as well. The last night, Russia again attacked Ukraine using drones, cruise missiles, and Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles. Everything was used to hit the energy infrastructure of Ukraine. So Russia continues with this internal pressure. Yeah, they hit behind the front lines. They're active on the front lines. They basically want to destabilize Ukraine. That's their main goal. And unfortunately, they hit some of the civilian buildings, infrastructure, as usual, those bastards do, and there are some of the casualties. Yeah, one of the drones hit the multi-story residential building, creating the hole. And yeah, if we check out the statistics, Russia has so many losses. This is the Ukrainian statistics for the day. Russia lost more than 1,000 soldiers, KA and wounded. Like, the number itself is huge, but Ukraine also has losses. And Ukraine is in defensive, which means that Ukraine is losing 3 times less soldiers. But if you calculate the number, it's still very big. In this case, it's 400,000, which for Ukraine, for a smaller country than Russia, way smaller, with less population, it is critical. And it cannot continue forever. Russia may mobilize any time like 1 million soldiers, and their society will be fine with that. For them, 1 million, 2 million, for Putin himself, it doesn't really matter. Putin wants to achieve the goal. He doesn't care about the Russian losses and whom they pay to sign the contract with the Russian army. Mostly alcoholics. Yeah, Russia has a very capable part of the army, but also those whom they use for straightforward mid-wave attacks, and they have multiple of those individuals in Russia still. So of course those losses, they matter for Russia, yes, but not that much as for Ukraine. Also, the interesting thing about Pavlograd that it's the location for Ukrainian explosives manufacturer, the only explosives manufacturer in Ukraine. The chemical factory is out there. Russians already tried to reach it, but Ukraine probably deployed the air defense. For now, it is functioning. So if Russia gets closer to that facility, now they're 80 kilometers away, but if it is roughly 40, they'll be able to hit it with everything they have. Artillery, drone strikes, so Ukraine will lose the capabilities to produce its own explosives and will have to rely on the Western military help completely. So Neptune missiles, those prospective Grom missiles, all of those projects will not be working any longer. Well, as for Flamingo, it uses the Soviet-made aviation bombs inside. Well, Ukraine still has many of those. Yeah, it's not a secret. I take it from the Russian channels, so those photos and this information, basically, which was spread initially by Western media. This facility produces rocket engines and rocket fuel and also components for explosives. So with this comes the threat for multiple of the Ukrainian projects in military sphere. Meanwhile, Ukraine hit a couple of the Russian substations in the central part of Russia. Both of those are critical for those Russian regions. Also, Sterlitama chemical factory was attacked and the refinery in Saratov. Russians are just in shock what is happening in their country. Why? Well, maybe because special military operation goes according to plan. Oh, nice one. In Crimea, Ukraine hit the Russian S-400 air defense system. Awesome. Did I tell about it before? No, I think it's the very fresh video. Ukraine used FP2 drones. Yeah, definitely it's the triumph Russian best air defense system S-400, which was kaputted. Absolutely crazy fat target, and our guys are very successful. Awesome. To some other news, Orban visited the United States of America and met with his fellow Donald Trump. Well, the initial information in the press says that the United States of America may make an exclusion from sanctions for Hungary to continue to purchase Russian oil without any sort of the secondary sanctions applied. It means that those sanctions basically worth nothing because some other countries and companies may try the same. So they are good friends with Donny as well. Modi may call to Donald Trump, may we have some of the exemptions, please. Chinese leader Xi Jinping as well. And what they basically need to do to get those exemptions is to tell to Donald Trump how good president he really is, how he stopped 8 wars, and so on. As you see from the Orban's visit, Donald Trump is pretty much manipulated still. But it's not yet 100% that Orban will get his exemption. Oh, kind of the good move from the United States of America. They're going to buy 1 million drones for its army. They already understood that without the drones, you cannot win the modern day war. I just wonder about the quality of those drones and their price, because it could be way higher than Ukraine purchased those as the spare parts also from China. Yeah, guys, some mixed news for today, not so positive, but I'm here to tell you the truth as it is. And thank you so much for your kind support on Patreon. The link for my Patreon page is in the video description just below, or you may join membership of this YouTube channel just clicking the join button somewhere here below this video. And if you don't have the opportunity to support me financially, you may just press like to this video and subscribe for the channel, because it helps YouTube algorithms to propel this video elsewhere on the platform. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.